When I was 24, I was a newlywed living with my wife in a small apartment. She was a bit of a hothead, so when we had a misunderstanding, it sometimes exploded into World War III. Most of the time, if I could escape, I'd go out and cut the grass and let her burn off her anger vacuuming or scrubbing a floor or something. By the end of the day, we were usually good and back to loving each other. Except for one time, we had a huge fight, and she was roaring mad with no way to solve the issue that evening. And I had a big meeting with a customer the next day that was very important. I told her I was going to get a room in a hotel for the night and let her cool off. There was a Sheraton hotel not far from our home that I checked in. It was $160, but I had nowhere else to go, and the other hotels were much further away. It was still early evening, so I went to the hotel pool to sit in the jacuzzi and try to clear my head and relax. The pool area was vacant of any guests, and the lobby and hallway were just as empty. The only person in the hotel beside me seemed to be the hotel receptionist who checked me in. We don't live in a tourist destination, but this part of town isn't far off the interstate, so I expected it to be busier. Hotel reception booked me on the 3rd floor in the middle of the hall. I felt strange taking a room in the middle of the hallway on the 3rd floor that appeared to be entirely vacant. I had no idea why they would give me that room. After relaxing in the pool and jacuzzi, I went up to my room and turned on the TV and laid down on the bed with nothing to do. I had been dozing for about an hour when I heard a light tap with a key on the door. I waited a minute for someone to call out housekeeping, but no one did, so I ignored it. I had put out the Do Not Disturb door hanger when I returned from the pool and locked the door, so it was a surprise when I heard a key in the lock and the door hand twisting with someone attempting to enter. I yelled out, "I don't need anything." From the bed where I was laying, I could not see the door as my view was blocked by the bathroom wall. A couple of seconds passed, and the key and door handle moved again. Again, I yelled out, "No thank you. I don't need anything." The door pulled shut, having been open just a couple of inches that the security chain would allow, that I had also slipped into place when I entered my room. It was shut so hard it made a loud bang. It startled me, it was so loud and sudden. I thought that was incredibly rude and very disturbing. I got up and went to the door to give housekeeping an admonishment. I still had some heat in me from my battle with my wife, so they were on thin ice. I was going to share my pent-up anger with them. But when I opened the door, nobody was there. I looked down the hallway and it was empty, but when I looked up the hallway, I saw a woman's leg vanish behind a stairway door. How she got there so fast, I don't know. I followed her up the stairway to the 4th floor. I heard the stairway door close on 4, but when I got there and looked down the corridor, no one was in sight. The housekeeper had disappeared. Only a floor of 30 unoccupied rooms. It was unnerving, and I still found it very rude. I took the elevator down to the front desk to report the employee. I had to say something to management about this creepy housekeeper. The desk clerk said, "Oh, that must be Maria," when I told her of the woman slamming my door, even though I had a Do Not Disturb sign on the door handle. She said she would speak with the housekeeper and also make a note for the hotel manager. I thanked her and went into the hotel restaurant for dinner. It was very quiet with only a couple of diners. I had a really delicious pasta and salad with breadsticks again, beginning to relax from my trauma at home. When I got back to my room, I called a friend who I've confided in the past about the irrationality of my wife during difficult times. It was always good to get his feedback and advice. I called my wife to see how she was, but she was still angry and didn't want to speak with me. When I hung up the phone, it was just after 9. I brushed my teeth and washed my face, got into bed and watched sports on the TV. I think around 10:30 I was asleep. Sometime after 11 I was shaken out of my sleep by the sound of a key in the lock and the rustling of the door handle. I turned over in bed and listened more carefully in the dark. I opened my eyes, and in the dark I could perceive a woman standing over me. I shot up in bed and yelled, "Get out!" I had a dreadful lump in my throat, and then a horrifying feeling in my gut as she wrapped her hands around my neck. She was whispering words I could not understand and repeating them over and over. She wasn't very strong, and I was able to twist out of her grip and ran to escape. As I bolted out of the room into the hall, the woman stopped at the door and slammed it shut. I raced to the front desk. The night clerk admitted that one of the housekeepers had lost a master key to all the rooms that day, so someone could have had access to all the rooms in the hotel. She had reported it to the hotel management, but nothing had been done. My rage from the afternoon erupted, and the night clerk said she would refund my room cost and offered a complimentary stay in the future. The police arrived and I reported the intruder in my room. I told them she had barricaded herself in the room when I had left, and no one has come down. I went home and told my wife the horrifying story, and she was very sympathetic and apologetic for the way she had treated me the previous day. I've never had to leave the house again after that night. We found a way to resolve our marital troubles, and it's wonderful now. I have no idea what happened to the lunatic woman who attacked me in the hotel room. I'm happy she didn't kill me in my sleep. As a young salesman for a national company, I frequently traveled out of state. On one particular sales trip, I was in Scranton, Pennsylvania. I found a hotel for the night near the highway, which wasn't a great part of town. Much of the area was run down and dilapidated. I had had a long day in sales meetings and then a long drive. I was exhausted, so it would do. After a quick check, I got into the room. It was okay, nothing special. Clean is all that mattered. I dropped straight into bed. I had another early morning meeting scheduled. Even though I was drained, I tossed and turned for an hour. I think the stress of the day's meeting really had my nerves. So I turned on the TV to a music channel, hoping it would lull me to sleep. It did the trick and I started to nod off. But about 2 hours later, I became aware of a sound. It was a knocking. Not very loud, but very evident and disturbing. At first, I thought maybe it was a couple in the next room or above my room. I couldn't tell exactly where the sound was coming from. I turned the TV off as it was still on, and the sound was loud in the silent room. I decided it wouldn't last, tuned it out, and laid back to sleep. But at that moment, I could tell the sound was someone fidgeting with the lock on my room door. It was someone trying to jimmy the lock. I got up and approached the door silently. There was no question that someone outside the door was working to pick the lock. As I stood there in the light from the bathroom, I could see the lock twist and unlock. I immediately said, "Who's there?" No one answered. And I could see the door open. It could open only a few inches as the safety chain was in place. Luckily, I used that before going to bed. The door stopped moving as the chain tightened. If I had not put on the chain lock, the intruder would already be in my room. The decision to utilize the second lock was life-saving. It was a decision that saved me from a deadly confrontation. At this moment, it was apparent the chain lock was just a second deterrent and wouldn't stop this intruder from entering my room. His hand was already working the chain lock with a small device, attempting to unlock it from the inside. With no other recourse, I yelled, "I have a gun," while pointing my finger at the door. The man silently retreated with only the muffled footsteps running down the hotel corridor. I sat on the bed and picked up the phone to call the police, but decided the intruder would be long gone before they arrived, and I would be up hours telling my story. I hung up the phone and pulled the covers over my head. The following morning, I intended to inform the front desk of the night's encounter with an attempted burglary. To my surprise, when I got to the lobby in the morning, it was packed with police and reporters. As it turns out, the intruder was an escaped felon from a prison not far away. They told me he was going from room to room, picking the locks and robbing the hotel guests of their cash at knife point. While this event in my life remains a chilling nightmare, I'm proud of how I handled that night trapped in that hotel room. I stayed calm and confidently shouted, "I've got a gun," even if it was only my finger. My confidence carried off the bluff and I saved myself. I left the area on my sales travel, never hearing the outcome of the escaped prisoner. Had he been caught or killed, or did he kill someone? I don't know. The Hawthorne Hotel in Salem, Massachusetts has a reputation for being haunted. The hotel's history was linked to the Salem witch trials of 1692. Some guests reported encountering strange occurrences during their stay. The most notorious room is room 325. It's haunted by a young woman named Abigail, who was accused of witchcraft and executed during the witch trials. On a crisp October evening, a young couple named Sarah and Jack arrived at the Hawthorne Hotel. eager to experience the spooky atmosphere of Salem during the Halloween season. Sarah had always been fascinated by the Salem witch trials and was thrilled to stay in a hotel with such a dark history. As they checked in, the receptionist informed them that their room was on the 3rd floor, in the notorious room 325. Sarah's heart skipped a beat with excitement, but Jack looked uneasy. "Is there anything wrong with the room?" he asked. "No, not at all," the receptionist replied with a smile. "It's just one of our most requested rooms, especially around Halloween." Sarah beamed excitedly as they entered the room, while Jack remained quiet and reserved. The moment they entered room 325, a chill ran down their spines. The decor was rustic, with antique wooden furniture and an eerie oil painting of a woman that seemed to follow their every move with her eyes. As they settled in for the night, Sarah felt something was wrong with Jack and inquired about his somber attitude. "I just have a bad feeling about this place," he replied. "I don't like the energy here." Sarah rolled her eyes and teased him for being superstitious. "We're in Salem during the Halloween season, Jack. It's supposed to be spooky." But as the night wore on, strange things began to happen. Sarah woke up in the middle of the night to a woman's voice whispering her name. She sat up in bed, but there was no one there. When she turned on the light, she saw a dark figure standing in the corner of the room, but it disappeared when she blinked. She shook Jack awake and told him what had happened, but he dismissed it as a nightmare. However, as they tried to go back to sleep, they both heard a strange scratching noise from the walls. The following day, they decided to explore the hotel and learn more about its history. They spoke to the receptionist, who told them about Abigail, the young woman accused of witchcraft and executed during the trials. She had been locked up in room 325 while waiting for her trial, the very same room that they now had. Sarah shuddered at the thought, but she was also intrigued. She and Jack decided to investigate further and headed to the Salem Witch Museum to learn more about Abigail and the other accused witches. As they wandered through the exhibits, they felt like they were being watched. They heard whispers and footsteps behind them, but no one was there every time they turned around. Eventually, they came across an exhibit about Abigail's trial. They were horrified to see a painting of the woman they had seen in their hotel room. Her piercing eyes seemed to stare directly at them, and Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. That night, they returned to their room feeling uneasy. As they settled into bed, they heard a strange humming noise coming from the corner of the room. They looked over and saw the dark figure from the night before, but it was more evident this time. It was the figure of a woman, and she was humming a haunting tune. Sarah and Jack were frozen in terror as the figure began to move towards them. They could see now that it was Abigail, the young woman who had been falsely accused and executed for witchcraft during the Salem witch trials. She looked ethereal, with long flowing hair and a white dress that seemed to glow in the darkness. As Abigail approached them, they could see the sadness and pain in her eyes. She raised a ghostly hand towards them, and Sarah and Jack could feel a cold breeze wash over them. They tried to scream, but their voices were caught in their throats. Abigail's ghostly form hovered above them, and they could hear her voice whispering in their ears. She told them about her life, her family, and how she had been wrongfully accused of witchcraft. She had been locked up in their hotel room, awaiting her trial and eventual execution. Sarah and Jack could feel the weight of her pain and suffering, knowing they needed to do something to help her. They promised to uncover the truth about her trial to clear her name, to give her the justice she deserved. Abigail's ghostly figure disappeared, and Sarah and Jack were alone in their room, trembling with fear and awe. They knew that they had experienced something beyond explanation, and they felt a newfound respect for Salem's history and the witch trial's tragedy. The following day, they set out to research Abigail's trial, poring over old documents and court records. They discovered that she had been falsely accused by jealous townspeople who had spread rumors about her practicing witchcraft. They had no evidence to support their claims. Still, the hysteria of the times had led to her conviction and eventual execution. As for the Hawthorne Hotel, it became a place of reverence and respect for Salem's history and the witch trial's tragedy. Room 325 was no longer seen as a place of terror, but as a reminder of the ghosts of the past and the need to honor their memory. Sarah and Jack continued to visit Salem and the Hawthorne Hotel, feeling connected to the history and the ghosts that still lingered there. They knew they had experienced something beyond explanation that had changed them forever, and they were grateful for the opportunity to help bring justice to a young woman who had been wronged so long ago.